we were really focused on our top 5 for sure. Numbers 6 through 12, I gotta let the people know, listen, we weren't too tied down into 6 through 12 on who exactly we thought was gonna sort of shake things out in terms of the power ranking, which is funny because it's like, oh, top 6 teams go to the playoffs. But even at that number 6 spot, let's just go through this really quickly. We'll actually go 6 through 12, and then we'll just sort of maybe talk about some of the teams within that. At number 6, we had Houston Dash. At number 7, we're going ambitious one more time and locking in Angel City FC at number 7. We've got Chicago Red Stars falling to number 8, North Carolina Courage at number 9, San Diego Wave FC at number 10, Racing Louisville at number 11, and Orlando Pride at number 12. So people are probably going to feel some type of way about it when they take a listen to these, but hey, we're just trying to have some fun here. But in terms of this number 6 through number 12, Lisa, who are you? What's a team that you want to point out and maybe fixate on a little bit and make a case for them?
I want to start with the Houston Dash because we did subconsciously put them at number 6 because they were so close in the 2021 season.
Yeah.
They just missed out on the playoffs. They got knocked out right at the very end, the very last game. And I think they have a really promising future ahead of them. They have a team that's been established. They were the underdogs in the 2020 Challenge Cup, winning that. So they have that taste of winning and the taste that they can continue to go on. They don't have all of the pieces, though. That's why they're not in our top 5. They have good players. Signing Nichelle Prince with a contract through the 2024 season is huge. I think Nichelle Prince is a player that you can really build an offense around on this team. They also have players like Rachel Daly-Shaygroom that are really bought into the Houston Dash mentality and that community. This season was rough with all of the Olympics play and losing players that happened. Houston Dash being the team that lost the most players in the 2021 season due to international play. But because of that, I think it will make them stronger for the 2022 season. However, still not in that top 5, but a team that could make a push, and we could see being a bit of those underdogs, having those games that can upset opponents and knock players off, almost playing that wrecking ball mentality that Kansas City played at the end of the 21 season. So Houston Dash, I think they're a team that you have to keep an eye on for sure next year.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that 100%. They remain that type of team during this 2021 season as well, and I'm sure they're gonna have that last final moment sort of circled as motivation for them. The fact that they got eliminated from playoffs on a tiebreaker, that is tough.
It's
So
so
I,
it's
I
so
like having him at number 6.
it is really rough to see how he got knocked out there, but I think it'll almost spark a little bit of joy for them for next season. Sandra, I have to ask you, Chicago Red Stars, we put them at number 8. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Well, you know what? Let's talk about it both. We went Angel City number 7 and Chicago Red Stars number 8. And I think because of these two teams, and it's just hilarious how this worked out, Lisa, because we were contemplating this before all of this trade news dropped. And it's kind of ironic that we've got them in our power rankings at 7 and 8, because between the two of these teams, they engaged in some trades to sort of, ahead of the expansion draft to sort of settle things out and iron things out, right? So Angel City was a team that only had one player on it. And when we were contemplating this, we were like, geez, what do you do with that? What direction do you go? They have a head coach in Frey Coombe, and they have somebody in Kirsten Press. And with Chicago Red Stars, we knew that at the time they had a roster intact that had just come off of a championship finals appearance. They earned the runner up in that one and the 2-1 loss to Washington Spirit, but a roster that still had players like Amal Pugh, right? Players like in the midfield like Morgan Gautrat and Sarah Woldmo, strong midfield, right? And they had players who were out with injury for large portions of the season. Alyssa Nair only getting 8 games with the club that year, and then Julie Ertz only playing 1 game and being out due to injury after the Olympics. So to see this big trade, let's just talk about it. It ended up being that the Chicago Red Stars traded Sarah Gordon, their Iron Woman center back, and Julie Ertz to Angel City, along with international slots as well for roster protection in the NWSL expansion drafts. And they also made an additional trade with San Diego FC, who we have obviously lower in this power ranking, but another trio of players that they're sending to San Diego FC for more roster protection. So there's a bit of a perception right now that in terms of a winners and losers in this one, that Chicago is coming away kind of bloodied and battered in this one. And you know what? You got to talk about it that way, because that is the perception, and that is what happens when sometimes there are trades. Sometimes there are winners, sometimes there are losers, sometimes it works out for everybody. And this one, the perception is that the two Cali teams are the ones that are making out in this one. But this all comes in light of a lot of disappointing things, right? A third finals appearance for the club in Chicago, and coming away empty-handed. A bit of a scandal that they were rocked with post their exit from that, and the resignation late in the night of their former head coach Rory Dames, in light of reports that came out following that, highlighting abusive language and environments from Dames. And this all comes within this press release that the club puts out, saying that they made trades with three different clubs, Lisa, for multiple players, and that included somebody in Nikki Stanton going to Oil Rain. So it's like a number of players going to three different clubs, and one of those is Angel City. And I have to say, the fact that those three players right now on Angel City's roster have familiarity with each other as all former Chicago Red Stars, I think is only going to be beneficial to Angel City as they continue to build and grow their roster. So I think that's why we got to keep them at 7, and I think that's why we got to knock down Chicago at number 8, which is still a pretty high spot in these power rankings. Consider that there are now 12 teams.
Sandra, it's so funny because I can't agree with you more. As you said, we did this content planning way before any of these trades happened late in this week, the first week of December. And we had Angel City high. I think when we chatted about it, one of my arguments was that these owners for Angel City seem to want a lot. They seem to want to be winners. And sometimes confidence is key. And that's really all you need to plow through and do what you need to do. They have money that they're willing to spend on their players and on their clubs. And that can go a long way if you invest in the right things, the right players to have the right energy in the club. And that's why we put Angel City there. Then after all of the trades and things that happened, it really solidified that Angel City should be towards the top of these 12 teams in our power rankings. And that's exactly right. With Julie Ertz, Sarah Gordon now being acquired by this team, Kristen Press as well, they have a lot of star power there, which is similar to my initial reaction that Angel City has a lot of star power in their ownership. They have a lot of money. They have a lot of experience on the pitch and running things. So I think they're going to do pretty well. You also mentioned San Diego Wave, and they're a little bit farther down on our list. They've also gone through a lot of changes this year, acquiring different players throughout the team, and they're also an expansion team. And as we mentioned before with expansion teams, they tend to face rocky roads at the start of their very first season. It's a little bit harder to predict. Do they have enough momentum behind it? Do they have the right foundation for the players going into the league? And I think that's why we put San Diego a little bit lower than Angel City, because although both expansion teams, there's just something that shines a little bit brighter about Angel City. However, San Diego, they're still not even at the bottom of our list. That is very surprising. I think that says a lot about the way that these two organizations and these two clubs, San Diego and Angel City, are built, that they have this culture of winning. And when you look at San Diego, they have Jill Ellis and they have Casey Stoney as their head coach. And I think that foundation of having Stoney as the coach says a lot about how this team is going to behave and how they're going to play throughout the 2022 season. Also, nestled in between them at our number 9 team is North Carolina Courage. This is a team that faced a lot of adversity, going through a lot of tough conversations off the pitch, which did affect them on the pitch. And because of that, they will be going through some of the biggest changes in this offseason and going into next season, which is why North Carolina, who is traditionally a power team in this league, isn't towards the top of our list. They also lost Sam Ewis when they sent her to Kansas City, who was a big part of that midfield unit and that team. Of course, they still have players that can do a lot of things. They have Sean Nahas, who has been announced the head coach for North Carolina Courage, which I personally think is a tremendous hire for him. A lot of Courage players have come out and said that Sean Nahas is a wonderful coach. They advocated for him to stay there. I have friends that played for him at the youth level, and they really enjoy playing for him and understanding the way he coaches, but not a top 5 team in North Carolina, but honestly, not towards the bottom either. They're ranked number 9 on our list, just ahead of San Diego.
Well, I guess let's get to those final 2 teams, and before we get to them, gotta maybe put a disclaimer on this. We are not anti-purple on this show. Big fans of the color of like that it comes in all shades, but we've got Racing Louisville at number 11, and we've got Orlando Pride at number 12. And honestly, I think when we were doing this content planning, Lisa, a big reason why we put them there is just because there were a lot of unknowns and not a lot of ideas either within that. They had missing pieces in Racing Louisville throughout their entire season. Players with talent, but unable to just really come together. The bright spot and silver lining in there, obviously somebody in Emily Fox, but this is one player in the outside back position and wanting to see a little bit more. They're going to have to make some pieces and really try to develop a spine up that pitch to really compete in this league. And they're also going to have to get themselves a head coach because Chrissy Holly was terminated for cause midseason, bringing in Mario Sanchez in the interim. And one of the first offseason moves that Racing did was say that he's actually not going to stay on in the
Mhm.
head coaching role. So they're in the process of A, having to find a new head coach, and B, trying to maybe look at some different pieces to build up that roster in their second year now in 2022. And similar things for Orlando Pride. Also some issues with coaching. Had their coach leave midseason, could maybe kind of point to that and say that it derailed the team in a little bit of ways, because this was a team that went on an undefeated 7-game streak to start off the season and then really just sort of floundered throughout the remainder of that season. And there are still question marks around that team. There's new ownership in Orlando for both Orlando City and the Orlando Pride. So while they still are rumored to be connected in their head coaching search to UCLA's Amanda Carmel, that has not been made official yet. There's also the additional rumor that just got put out there, reported by Meg Linehan of The Athletic, that Ali Krieger and Ashton Harris are in conversations or potentially rumored to head to Gotham FC, but that's unofficial as of our time of recording this. And there's still question marks about somebody like Martha or Alex Morgan. What is this Orlando Pride team going to look like in 2022? We do not know. And for that reason, we've got both Racing and Orlando Pride closing things out at 11 and 12.
And it's not to be disrespectful. I do want to reiterate that we love the color purple, and it's no disrespect to Louisville or Orlando Pride. I think that even when you look at this season for Orlando Pride, they had their moments, but it was almost like a rebuilding year, or a year where it was like, let's just hang on by a thread. I think that this Pride team needs a season to kind of reset, and that could be this season. That's why they're at the end of this list, frankly, because they need that reset season to kind of establish themselves. They do have a lot of older superstar players that we could see movement around. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do. Heck, we don't even know if Alex Morgan is going to be traded and go somewhere at the time of this recording, which I wouldn't be surprised if she does. And that really changes the identity of this team as a whole. And having 2 clubs coming in California, I think it disrupts the roster for Orlando a little bit. And Racing Louisville, they need those pieces to keep building up an expansion team. Last year in the 2021 season, they don't tend to do well right off the bat. They need a few years under their belt to really establish themselves.